My fellow Cyberpunks, what is going on, y'all? Your dude Sly here, back at it with another Cyberpunk 2077 news video for you. And with the recent live stream demo dropping all kinds of stuff to talk about, it finally gives us some news that's actually interesting and worthwhile. So before we start, guys, if you have not watched it, then you can check out the live stream from the link down below in the description box. I also have my own deep dive video here where I break down the trailer and check out all kinds of hidden things, as well as a not so hidden, and talk about them in detail, and they are definitely worth a look, so check them out. And like I said, you can find them at the end of the video or in the description box down below. Okay guys, so without delay, let's jump right into our first topic, and that is a thing called street stories. Now, I talked about this in my own live stream breakdown video, but it's news that's worth repeating. Within Night City, there will be 6 main districts, and of course, within these districts, there'll be specific areas. Well, each of these districts and areas have a person that's called a fixer. The character we've seen before, named Dexter Deshawn, is one of these fixers. More specifically, he is a fixer for the Watson district within Night City. Now, from what I gather, the recent demo we watched is what's known as a street story. Each of these districts within Night City have these fixers you can talk to, and they all have side missions or street stories that kind of give you like a feel for each of the areas, the gangs, the buildings, along with bits of lore to help you along the way. Once you make your way through all of the street stories, you should know a ton about Night City, its technologies, the characters, timelines, gangs, and a ton of other stuff to help you along the way. Now, like I mentioned before in my breakdown video, the demo isn't exactly in chronological order. It skips around all over the place, but if you pause it in the right area, you can get a lot of information, such as you see here. You see Placide butchering a chicken, and the subtitles say that a person by the awesome name of Mr. Hands sent you to the Voodoo Boys. I'm willing to bet that Mr. Hands is one of these fixers, and that this is one of the street stories I talked about during the developer Q&A at the end of the demo. So I thought putting 2 and 2 together seemed pretty cool, and that it actually made sense. And speaking of the Voodoo Boys, fans of the original tabletop version of Cyberpunk had an issue with the demo due to the Voodoo Boys being actual Haitians or Creole descendants, while in the original game, the gang was just a bunch of white dudes who tried to use the iconography of voodoo to scare people and their rivals, and they also thought it was cool. However, there are times when you're creating a story, or a video in my case, and after it ages, you go back and watch it only to realize that it was kind of a bad idea, or you really did not get to do what you were after. And according to Mike Pondsmith, the Voodoo Boys was one of those times. He later explained that in 2077, the gang shifted and evolved to incorporate Haitians and practitioners of voodoo. Mike Pondsmith used the gap between 2077 and the upcoming Cyberpunk Red game to kind of fix an error of the past, or as they say, time heals all. Okay, y'all, so moving on, next up we're going to talk about Cyberware. Now, we see quite a few cool things within the demo, which, by the way, according to sources, was nowhere near as good or as cool as the full Gamescom demo. But as you see here, within the demo, a couple of cool upgrades were shown, such as the gorilla arms, where hydraulics can jack open doors. But we also get to see the optics installed in the last demo used here in game. V uses it to identify enemies and their weak points. And then of course, one of the cooler parts, the nanowire. Now unfortunately, we didn't get to see it used up close, but as you see here in the video, it can be used to hack things from afar, including people, which in my opinion is kind of far out there in believability, but still cool nonetheless. Now, since there are so many things you can choose from, and at this current time, no way to reset your build or the points used, how do we know what's what? I mean, how do we know what's going to be good versus what sucks? Well, within the game, there are these things called shards. Now, shards are the chips you see here where they plug them into the user's neck or behind the ear at the base of the head. Some of these shards have cyberware installed onto them, which will allow the user to sort of test out these different cyberware options before going to a Ripper dock and installing them permanently. And speaking of tools of the trade and cyberware, let's dive into weapons. More importantly, item rarity. In the 15-minute demo, you can see that when we take a peek into the character screen, you see basic colorless items like down here at the bottom, but also green, blue, and purple. The one we know of for sure, of course, is the purple or epic variety, as you see here in the video. But if I had to guess, the green and blue are probably your normal and common or rare items. However, there's also one more step above epic, and once again, if you pause the demo at just the right time, you can see right here Sasquatches Hammer, and it comes in yellow or a gold rarity, which I'm assuming is going to be something akin to Destiny's exotics or perhaps the Division's high end. Whether or not there's a tier above that one, well, we'll have to wait and see. But while we're on item rarity, let's talk about weapons themselves. Within the developer Q&A, a couple of cool details were shared with us on top of shards and street stories, but also weapon types. According to Miles Tross, there are 3 types of guns within Cyberpunk. We have the smart guns, the type that have tracking or homing bullets, such as you see here in the video from the E3 demo of 2018. And then the next type is tech weapons. These weapons feature a secondary upgrade or attribute, such as armor-piercing rounds, which can shoot through, cover or walls. And then the final type, power weapons. What they are, I'm not really sure. I'm assuming like rocket launchers or flamethrowers, stuff like that. It seems to me an odd way to kind of categorize guns within Cyberpunk, but CDPR knows what they're doing, so I'll just leave it up to them. However, a recent argument has been flaring up concerning just that perhaps CDPR is making a huge mistake, and that has to do with the character creator system and their decision to go first person. After the demo concluded, developers were answering questions about cutscenes. According to CDPR, all of Cyberpunk 2077's cutscenes will be in first person, even the sex scenes. And then this raises questions about character creator. Lots of arguments I've seen on Reddit and Twitter raise the question of why the game comes with a character creator when we will never see our character's face, if every single cutscene is to be in first person. Well, the response from CDPR is simply this. First person benefits greatly due to the believability and storytelling perspectives, and that you will also get to see your character when looking at mirrors, such as you see here in the video. But not only that, also when you look in rear view mirrors when driving, and assumingly the other reflections in game. I also know Cyberpunk will have RTX as an option, which can reflect your image in a number of different ways, like on water for instance. Some gamers still aren't convinced about it, but once again, like everything else, we'll see how that plays out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the final piece of news here has to deal with a classic gaming problem, separating cool from useful stats. As a Destiny player, I know there's a huge problem with having my favorite piece of armor that looks great, but suffers from terrible perks or stats, while the basic set that can drop from about anywhere in the world looks like doo-doo but has everything I need. I mean, that's a huge problem with not only Destiny, but a lot of other games as well. While this is getting solved in Destiny 2 Shadowkeep, CDPR is still deciding on how this will work within Cyberpunk. Now, cool is still a stat within Cyberpunk. However, the studio seems to kind of be backing off from one of their original statements that jackets or clothes will increase your cool. They made that announcement, a couple of years ago, and ever since then you don't hear a lot about it. I think instead, again, this is only a guess here, guys, that it might only give you a boost to your street cred XP while wearing certain jackets, such as like a 10% XP boost or something like that. The cool stat within the character screen is a rigid stat in which you have to slot points into. And an example one of the devs gave us, oddly enough, how higher cool points can steady your shooting. That makes you more accurate, and it can also help you hold your gun better. They go on to say that it doesn't look good or cool if you're in a shootout with your knees shaking while you're holding your gun all types of wrong. So the higher your cool point, the better you look while holding your gun, which in my opinion, guys, is kind of a really odd way to distribute cool and actually show it in game. But I'm sure that's only one small example out of many. So as with everything else we talk about, it's going to be another wait and see. But that is about it, y'all. Once again, if you haven't watched the demo, the Q&A, or my video breakdown, I highly recommend all of them because they're pretty informative. But as for me, guys, I am out of here, my friends. As always, thank you all so much for watching and for supporting Sly Nation. If you're new to my channel, then welcome, my friends. Subscribe for lots more Cyberpunk 2077 videos, as I will be covering it all the way through its release. Spank the thumbs up, but only if you enjoyed yourself, and if you wish to check me out on social media, feel free to follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Sly Nation or Sly Nation Gaming on the FB. It's also a great place to ask questions or post some comments. I'm out of here, y'all. Once again, thank you for watching, and be sure to keep those eyes open for more videos coming out here soon. But until then, this is your dude Sly, and I'll catch you all next time.